paid for a direct flight, and they were bouncing her around like through Orlando.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Co-op Budget Committee to order at 6:50 PM. This is a regular, albeit late starting meeting for the Co-op Budget Committee. Our meetings typically occur on the fourth Thursday of every month. Due to the school vacation week next week, we've moved the meeting to this evening, which is the third Thursday. The agenda was posted in advance of the meeting as required. I would like to take a moment to introduce myself, Darlene Mann, and the members of the Budget Committee that are present for tonight's meeting, which include Tom Whalen, Raul Blanchet, Matt McGuire, and Tony Stanizzi. We have excused absences for Brian Rader, Dave Blinn, and Cindy Van Conant. I'd also like to welcome our school board chair, Holly Durlow Babcock, and our business administrator, Kelly Seeley, for tonight's meeting. If you could all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for your patience as we have a little bit of a late start this evening. I'd like to just take a minute to ask if there are any agenda adjustments for this evening. Seeing none. In the month of April, so Raul, you are our process observer for tonight's meeting. And as our first meeting after the March district meeting and having members sworn in for their new terms of office, to take this time at this meeting to talk about organization and reorganization of the budget committee and look for nominations for chair and vice chair. A few years ago, a year or two ago, when we had the Dawn McMillan do our minutes for the meeting, we did not accept nominations for secretary, and we would consider that on a case-by-case basis if there were issues that required immediate action at a meeting or at a non-public session, or something of that nature. So right now, if at the committee's discretion, what we still are looking for would be the nominations for chair and vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Madam Chair.
Second.
Thank you. So that's a nomination from Tom Whalen, seconded by Matt, for myself to continue in the position as chair.
I'll nominate Raul for VP.
Oh, wait, we have a motion on the floor. So if there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a vote on that motion. All those in favor of nominating myself?
Aye.
Aye.
401. Thank you. I appreciate the confidence everybody puts forward with that annual nomination. I really do enjoy the time here as chair and being able to kind of lead us as we go budget to budget and see where the district ends up. So thank you very much. And entertaining a motion for vice chair from Tony.
Raul?
Nominating Raul as vice chair, and is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Matt. Any other discussion? Other nominations? Seeing none, I'll entertain the vote. All those in favor of Raul as vice chair? It's 4. Opposed? Abstentions? 0-1. Congratulations, Raul, as vice chair. And we can move forward. Moving on to approval of minutes, we do have 4 sets of minutes dating back to, make sure we get the dates right, dating back to February from our, the general meeting where we called to order. It was a joint meeting with the school board, and then we had 3 public hearings that night for the budgets, the bond, and one of the petition articles. So at this point, I'll take a motion to accept the minutes of our Budget Committee meeting of February 2nd.
So moved.
From Tom Whalen, seconded by Raul. Are there any comments, concerns, or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the minutes as of February 2nd?
Aye.
Okay, it's 500. We'll move on to the minutes of the first public hearing, which was the public hearing on the bond for the ventilation and energy upgrades. I'll take a motion to accept the minutes of the first public hearing from February 2nd.
I make a motion to accept.
From Raul, seconded by Tony. Comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of the first public hearing minutes? Great, unanimous, 500. The second public hearing was on the petition article
SB2?
for SB2. Yes, the, was for the petition article. I'll take a motion to bring those minutes to the floor.
I make a motion to.
From Raul, seconded by,
Second.
any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the second public hearing minutes? 500. The last set of minutes is the set, that's the full public hearing on the remaining articles, excluding the other petition articles of the warrant. So if we could bring those minutes to the floor for a vote.
I'll bring.
From Raul, seconded by Matt. Change it. Seeing none, all those in favor of the minutes from the public hearing on February 2nd? Unanimous, 500. Great. Where's my agenda? There it is. We have no public presence, so no public input this evening. And we will move on to the general business section of the meeting, which is a district meeting overview. And I labeled it on the agenda FY23 planning. It isn't like budget planning. It's more of just our own committee planning. And just to kind of remind everybody where, how we finished our district meeting in March. The full warrant was approved as written, so our budget moving into FY23 is $26,898,443. The motion to adopt SB2, which was brought by petition, failed. The motion to rescind the retained fund balance calculation failed. The advisory petition warrant article failed. And the tax cap petition article failed. So with that, the district can move forward with its planning and prioritizing things as they move to close out FY22 and get started with FY23. And I would just ask members at this time, just kind of for any input about the budget process and the budget cycle itself, if things that you think went well, things that you think maybe we should put more attention to the next time, and ask then, following up on if there are any topics or areas you would like to have some more information on or an overview of. What we will do ongoing for the month of May, Kelly and I talked about a little our timeline. In May, we'll do a food service overview. In June, we go over an audit for maintenance items that are more of like the traditional maintenance items that are going on in the school, as opposed to the list that Kelly has included, and we'll talk about a little bit tonight, which are some of the kind of more time and labor intensive projects across the district. So that's May and June. July, we do skip the meeting in the month of July and come back together at the end of August, where our auditor comes, kind of gives us an overview of the last audit. So the district will undergo an audit this summer. He will not talk about anything from the audit that will have been completed most recently, but he'll talk about the audit report from the prior year audit, which would be for not this current year, it would be for the 2021 year. But he will have completed the 21-22 by the time we see him. And then in September, we begin kind of our budget cycle again and move toward preliminary guidance and things like that. So that's kind of the general outline of the year. But as I said, we do kind of talk at this point in the year about any items that might require a little bit of a kind of advanced planning or notification with the district. It doesn't preclude anything from being discussed later. It just is kind of that high-level conversation if anyone has any ideas of things that kind of need our attention as a result of the last cycle or, you know, anything that's upcoming.
I'll throw something for discussion. I think the total budget is captured by 3 or 4 line items. I think we should make it a routine for each one of those line items to be discussed. As this is where we are, this is what we're doing, just for a slash, status check and education.
Okay,
And somehow we should find a way to discuss or get an overview of those items prior
Okay.
to the beginning of the budget cycle.
okay. So the
So
areas
for
that come.
example, special services, the retirement system, that sort of thing. And then in the past, before the negotiations for, the salary, negotiations start, we have several times, we have actually put together a short white paper on what we think are things that the negotiators should consider. And I think we need to maybe discuss that as well,
Okay,
since I think we're coming up for,
It's
is it
2023, right?
next year, right?
I don't think so.
no, I think we're
It's-
going into the third year
Yeah.
of,
Right now, we voted, I think, the third year of the,
was it the third year?
yeah, I think it
I
was
thought it was the second
the
year.
I thought we
professional
voted the
staff
second year.
contract.
Second year of the
It was the
staff,
second-
of the
well-
teacher's contract.
Well, the teacher's contract, we didn't vote on because it was standardized,
It
so.
was standardized last year.
Yeah.
Right, so I think it was the second year, I can,
Yeah, I
It
think
was
there's
second
one
year.
more year.
I
in the
teacher's
double
teacher's-
checked
second
this,
year.
I double
Yes,
checked
sir.
this with Andy, and he told me that co-op would be up in, we would be starting negotiations in June of 2023.
Okay.
For.
So at the end of the year,
So-
but
But the
to your
idea-
point,
Yeah.
sometimes with regard to that white paper and the things that we've considered, it has been kind of a late, kind of like entry into the process. So
Right.
it is a good thing
I
to
mean,
talk about,
It's it's tough to do it at the last minute,
right, right, it is, you're
And
right.
so in the past, what we've done is we've taken the existing contract in terms of the highlights.
Mm-hmm.
And based on that, we've come up with suggested changes or things to think about. And at least so they can consider potential budget issues.
Right, so some of the
into
things
the process,
we've
right.
put together, and I haven't updated it, I didn't update it this last budget cycle, was like a view of the like historical benefit rates and, percentage-wise where the district falls in coverage limits and things like that. So I can
Right.
definitely work on updating that. There is the potential, so to the point, the items that you brought up, we can, since it is not a negotiating year, we can kind
Have
of
more
go
time to at least begin to
to
draft
look
something.
at that and kind of,
Right.
just look at the language of a CBA to understand and review what some of the elements are, how things are presented and discussed. So I don't know that we've ever, or, recently really kind of read and rehashed the language of a collective bargaining agreement. So that's, always a
When we
good
used to
place
do it
look.
every year, that was, every other year, we were more engaged with that process. you know,
Right.
With some organization,
Sure.
we haven't been,
Right, okay. For student services, we have changed student service directors since the last time I'm not sure, did Bob do the last overview or Amy did the last one? But Lauren DeGennaro is the student services director, so I'm sure that she would be able to come and give us an overview of, some of the new programs. There's always something new that our district is implementing, and I'm sure that she'd be happy to come do that. And NHRS would be another good topic because the rates will change as we go into the new planning year. And there are a few pieces of legislation that can have the potential to have significantly affect the contribution of the district in a couple of different ways. One piece of legislation would make a COLA adjustment to members who have 5 or more years in the retirement system, and the additional costs could be overlaid into that rate increase. So just kind of looking historically at contribution rates and what the effect is to the district is obviously helpful. There's another piece of legislation, and I'm not actually sure of the status of this one, that would return a portion of the NHRS funding back to the state level as opposed to it all being here within the district. So those are two pieces of legislation to watch that would have a significant impact on the district. One, and they kind of work in the opposite way. So one would end up costing the district substantially more, another would end up costing the district a little bit less. So it'll be interesting to see how those types of things.
You know, along those same lines, we did talk about, I think Brian offered to do a legislative update for us. I mean, legislation's been fast and furious in the last year, and it'd be helpful to have somebody keeping an eye on
Right.
Yeah,
those
we
things
do
and
need
how
to,
they impact us.
it is a lot to keep track of, and I think we
Yeah.
do need a little bit kind of firmer process around it, because there are opportunities where we can, do that remote input, and sometimes those timeframes come up really quickly with the notifications of when, certain bills are being, brought to the floor for public hearings and things like that, so we could definitely focus on
And
that.
then a follow-up to that is giving us a review of the analysis of the impact of the bills. You know, we plan based on today's legislation, and as we saw last year, legislation goes into place and we lose $40,000
Right.
overnight. That comes out, we've got to find a way to budget for that
Right.
within our existing budget. I think that's going to probably be more prevalent next year. We're going to see that. I mean, the impact of the homeschooling funding that they're putting out. The serious overdraft on that we're probably going to see in our, if not in our town taxes, then it's going to be, we're going to be impacted on what we get back from the state.
Okay. Anything else?
I just, a couple of things that came to my attention recently, and one is turnover in teachers and trying to find teachers. And I had an opportunity, just coincidental, 2 teachers from Florida, one from Massachusetts, from the coastal area, and another one from California. And there was a commonality about the burnout, and I think this might affect us in general. One of the things that the teachers seem to get upset about is out-of-pocket expenses, what they spend on their classroom, what they spend on their students, that comes out of their own paycheck. And I don't know if there is a cap, if we subsidize, but that's, I think, something to look at, where I've seen this and I've heard it from different people from around the country, and it seems to be a point of contention that they do so much, they work so hard, and then they're taking money that they get out of their paycheck to subsidize their classroom needs, pencils, crayons, whatever it is that they have to do. So do we have something that reimburses teachers appropriately for the amount of money that they're spending on their own out of pocket? And if it is significant, then something has to be done about it, because that's a tax to teachers that really is under the table, and I'd like to see something on that. If there is anything that compensates teachers, or if there is a limit that they
Okay,
They
we can
should
talk
spend
about
more
more
than-
about like expendable supplies and how they're, managed in the district. I mean,
That's not a line item though, right?
we do have an expendable
It is,
supply
okay,
line, but,
so-
some districts,
We do
go
reimburse.
full out and do, full support and, don't, distribute classroom lists and things like that, but, other districts, give parents the list that says, these are some just additional supplies that we'll need in a classroom, and then the district provides the rest, like things like that. So we can talk about that a little bit more as we
Yeah.
go into the next.
Because if it's a point of contention, and it's something that be looked at, and maybe it's expensive, I don't know. I don't know what the cost is, but I think it needs to be looked at and somehow brought to light. And figure out what we need to do, so teachers are not paying more than necessary out of pocket.
That's never been an issue that's come to the budget committee as an issue, but I'll leave it at that, and we can, talk about it at a later time and put it on the
I
list.
think it depends on the school district.
Yeah.
It could very well, and people could
I
be
think
very
it's a little
happy
bit-
here, but
I think it's a little bit more common in elementary school districts than you'll see in a high school, and maybe the middle school might experience that. But in my years on the school board, I've been on the board for 6, 7 years, that's not generally something that comes to us officially through negotiations or anything like that as a complaint or a concern. I think teachers might say it, but it's never been officially brought to us.
Right.
Yeah, and as far as we're concerned, it's the expectation that everything is in the budget that they would need.
it should be.
And it should be that way, and I do not reimburse people.
Yeah, no
Or-
teacher is given like an allowance or
Yeah,
anything like
no,
that.
we don't reimburse, so we're expecting that it's all in the budget. And in my experience in looking at what's left over in the expendable supplies,
It
we
shouldn't be
have
necessary.
adequate funding.
Then maybe we're in good shape, and
Yes, I suspect we probably are, but
Yeah.
yeah,
it's a real thing, though, yeah.
it is.
A lot of
Because I've
teachers.
heard of
And in
different
terms of
people.
teacher turnover, I mean, I think we're going to experience more of that, and we've certainly seen, this is just anecdotal, a few more resignations this year or people signing out. But I would not panic yet for our district. I think we're in pretty good shape, and we're still a desirable place, so we do get applications. But I think the trend, I think the trends are coming. The lack of kids in college who are studying it is going to be more of an issue that will impact us in the long run.
I think teachers would gladly pay for pencils in a district where parents weren't yelling at them.
Yeah.
I think, in all seriousness, I think there's been a lot
think
of,
the parents might yell here, but the kids don't.
there's been a lot of impact on teachers. And our school district hasn't been accepted from that, and it's come to a head where teachers are quitting because of it, administrators are quitting because of it, and it's going to continue. If the abuse continues, they'll continue to leave. They don't do it for the money. They can't, They
Definitely.
got to love what they do, so.
Yeah.
Looks like you have something to
Yes.
say on that.
So I guess for any of the maintenance facility type things that we talk about a lot, in the past, we've done the walkthroughs. I think that's helpful. If
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff out
Oh,
there. that
actually,
we
the
know.
physical walk
Yes.
through the buildings. Okay.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, that has been really helpful. I think we did that,
A couple of years ago, we did it a couple of years in a row, but last time it was pre-COVID.
yeah. It was when robotics, we were making space for robotics here and making some changes to the tech ed room and things like
Yep.
that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was eye-opening, you get used to being in certain areas of the school, so to kind of walk around and see, I think we were either right at the end of the year, right at the end of the school year, I
Maybe
think
it
we
was before,
were.
because it was really hot.
It
So-
was really hot, and a lot of the classrooms were emptied because of, to refinish floors and things like that. So I do think it was either right at right as the school year ended, or it couldn't have been, it would have been too late. It must have been
Yeah.
right as the school year
Yeah.
ended, so that's a good idea. Kind of
One
gives
of
you a
the
sense for how the kids move
files that
around.
was provided for the meeting was a list of all sorts of maintenance items,
Mm-hmm.
and many of them had to do with flooring. Are you going to go over that
Yeah,
tonight?
we
or-
are, we're gonna
okay.
get to that shortly.
Yep.
Well, that's a great list of things to start with. I can work with Kelly on some, scheduling the walkthroughs and things like that, determine if end of the year, or the beginning of the year is the better time to do that, and we'll start putting together some things that if anybody thinks of anything they really want to, have a strong opinion or just, want some more information on. Oh, I mentioned to Tony before the meeting started, now we have too many things on the list, but we were just talking about some of the reports the New Hampshire DOE website offers. There is a lot of really good information, so perhaps using a little bit of a meeting to just kind of walk through the website itself and see where some of the information is. It's a lot of, good data that, I used in a lot of the analysis and documentation that I put together, and I've come to rely on certain reports, but there are a lot of others that just offer, good general information. And if we are better able to talk to the elements and things that are on a DOE website, when questions come our way, it becomes easier for us to direct people to that website because we're familiar with the information that's there, and then people can see for themselves and, draw comparisons and conclusions to other districts and things like that, because it's generally very comprehensive.
So should we compile a list of, say, our top 10 websites that have some
Yeah,
good
that would be
reference
great.
material?
Yep.
And that way we can either publish it, make it, put
Send
it
to
on
the
our
Rotary.
website, right?
Put it on the website, yeah.
Could send
Yeah,
a little
that's a
note
great
to the
idea.
Rotary about it.
Right.
Yeah, other people, that's a
Okay.
good idea.
Great. All right.
People love lists.
Yeah.
Hollis Brooklyn Co-op's recommended websites
Lists
for
and links.
information.
There you go.
Go to the Rotary and she can make a little list.
Sponsored by.
Okay, great. We can move on to the financial update, Kelly. So Kelly shared the revenue and expense report as well as a project overview. So if you want to lead us through that, Kelly, that
Sure.
would be great.
So,
And this is for the current year.
Right, this is for the current year. It's actually as of April 6th. And you can see by looking at the balances on the far right column that we are trending with excess, or I should say underspent in special education and transportation, as well as our benefits. Those are the three big ones. We have had program changes and students move out of the district, and that accounts for why special education is trending higher on the underspent side. And transportation, that's also primarily because of special ed as well. Benefits have mostly to do with employees taking plans, making plan changes that we didn't anticipate, so. So that leaves us with an underrun, excuse me, an underrun of $805,000. And then if you look at the revenue, we are seeing extra revenue show up in the special education aid as well as in the other category, and that is primarily from the health trust surplus that we were given in all three districts.
So on the special education aid, since that runs in arrears, what we would see next year is probably lower than this number for the exact reason that we have lower costs.
Yes.
Some of them, some cases, the students may have aged out or moved, so
Yep.
we could expect
I would expect that to
reduction in that
happen that
special
way, yes.
education aid number.
So that gives us, at the end of the day, the unreserved fund balance before we look at the estimated needs for FY '23 of $1,068,000. And then when we include the maintenance trust, the special ed trust, and the retained fund balance for FY '23, that total, those three numbers total to $413, which gives us a projected fund balance of about $655,000. And I will say that included in the expenses, we are looking to do some work on the dirt student lot that is on the way up to the high school on the left side. We're looking to extend that and prep it with gravel. It has to be prepped with gravel before it can be paved, and it needs to sit for a year so it can, even out and settle. And then we would presumably look to FY '24 for the paving of that spot. And we will also include crosswalks and other safety measures to keep our kids safe before we finish that particular paving project.
I did have a couple of questions. I don't recall seeing this food service fund balance.
Well, that's because normally we don't have free lunches, and we have free lunches for the past couple of years. And this year, the students seem to be really taking advantage of that. So we're looking, so the revenue is outpacing our expenses, and those have to be an even number at the end of the day. So as you can see there, I have a two food service fund balance. And that just represents the amount that's over our anticipated expenses that we'll be transferring to Fund 21, which is our food service fund. I can't say that word today. So it's particularly high. Besides last year, it wasn't that significantly different. So I called that out here.
Okay, and I'm assuming when we talk about food service, we'll talk about if there's any need for a price change as we go into the new year. And
Yeah, that is something we now have to consider, so
Right,
yes.
right. Okay, and, I did have one other question. So I wondered if in your preparation and planning for FY '23, if there's any consideration to pre-buying some of the supplies or, how you're faring, like locking in any discounted rates for those expendable items, like classroom supplies, paper specifically, things like that. If you're running into like any increases or potential shortages because of the whole issue with
Right.
supply chain.
I'm not really sure that we're seeing that now like we did a year ago this time. So we're not actively planning to do anything like, supply things. In fact, the auditors will not let us do some sort of advanced things. If it's meant for FY '23, they don't want us to spend for FY '23. So, but we will, we do have in our expenses to accelerate something we plan to put in FY '24, and that is interactive flat panels. Our smart boards are starting to age, so this is, you can't buy smart board. I can't talk at all today. You can't buy smart boards at all now. So we're seeing that we have to make choices on how we replace them. And interactive, we do have in the district, we just installed one at CSDA, and one will be installed in the co-op, and one will be installed at Hollis during the break. And we're having teachers that have those, perfect skills to test those out and sort of pilot the interactive flat panels. And so far, the teacher at CSDA is just so stunned with how this works and how it will, in some ways, sort of revolutionize the education for the kids.
So those are the screens where you, like, if you have it looks like a whiteboard and you have it, you can like kind of
These actually look like a TV.
Oh, okay.
As opposed to a whiteboard. But yes, it's
okay.
interactive, and there's so many things they can do. They can plug their laptops right into the units. You don't need a projector anymore. And
Oh,
it's
okay.
just really, there's just different things, like you can have kids punch in things while on a laptop that they can also, see happen
review.
on the screen in front of you too.
It's interactive with all the students. They can-
Yeah, it'll
They
be,
can do polls and.
yeah, they
things like
do.
that.
You can
Do
do
you know that
yes.
there are tables like that instead of boards?
Oh, Microsoft table, right? That's how
I
they
mean,
start, yeah.
just recently was at one of my company's sites in Huntsville, Alabama. They just opened a new site that they're gonna be
Wow,
inaugurating this coming week.
wow.
But they had rooms where they had gathering tables that had the same functionality. So
Wow.
the idea here is instead of having somebody at the board being viewed by the rest of the population, you can have several people
Right,
actively working together. And that creates a different dynamic, and perhaps it's better. You learn
Yeah.
more from doing that.
Right.
This and doing, just watching an individual.
right. And the teacher at CSDA that is piloting it just can't say enough about it. And he's very excited to pass on what he's learning and the knowledge he has to the other teachers at CSDA.
So I guess what I'm saying is if there is an opportunity to eventually down the road to maybe purchase or something.
Well, we are
like this.
purchasing 6 right now, so.
Yeah.
However, I will say that the 3 that we just purchased took us I want to say 7 months to get, so that could be a factor in supplying these as well, so.
That might
but
be a good
that's the
field
plan.
trip for us.
It's gonna be a slow roll.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
buying all
don't
these
expect
screens,
to.
see how they
right
work.
away. Okay, and then I just want to touch on the fact that we just got the bids back for the lease for the co-op.
Oh, great.
And we had there were 4 bids in total, and only really 2 of them are close, and one was from Bank of America, one was from TD Bank. TD Bank gave us an interest rate of 2.899%, and Bank of America's interest rate was 2.925. Now, we decided to go with Bank of America, which is just slightly higher than TD Bank, because I believe this was an error on their part. They gave us the bid for 14 payments, which we asked for 15. So it made the interest much higher than the result of the Bank of America bid. So we will be going with Bank of America at 2.925.
Lock it in.
Yeah, we're trying right away, because the bid, or the estimate that we used to create the warrant article was at, if I remember right, 2.866, I think it was. So just in that amount of time, things are going up, so.
Right, and I know you're going to move into the other projects, but maybe you just can comment briefly. So did every district end up with a lease or bond?
Yes, Brookline has a bond to put in an elevator and an office that goes with that for security purposes. We're going to move the library to the bottom floor, which is mostly storage right now. It has 2 classrooms, but we'll turn one of the classrooms plus some of the storage into the new library, and then the current library will become 2 classrooms. That's mostly what's happening there. In Hollis, we have a bond there, and that's a number of things. There's roofing projects, there's air source heat pumps, there's cladding the outside of the gym, so it will now look like the rest of the building. Bathrooms, interior doors, and I'm forgetting something, but I
Kitchen?
forget what it is. Kitchen, thank you.
So those are going to be through the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank?
Yes,
And so I believe they've moved up their normal schedule
Correct.
because they want to be able to firm the rates before there's an increase.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, that's a few weeks earlier than normal.
right.
Of course, the co-op has our lease as well, which is really just the HVAC unit replacements, the units that are 20 years old, and then we'll be replacing those. But that's not to say we don't have a few other things on the list. The list that I gave you in your packets is for all 3 districts, because we're giving this also to all the school boards, so they can have a sense of just what's on our plate for.
Yeah, I think this
For the
is the
summer.
first time we've ever really looked at it from
Yes,
an
and we-
entire
yeah,
SAU perspective.
Exactly, and we've never really looked at it this way, because you're in your own little zone when you do each district, and then when we sort of went, what did we do to ourselves here?
Right.
You know, it's like, wow! So we just wanted to share that surprise that we had as well with all the districts. So you can look at what Hollis and Brookline have planned for their summers, and then the co-op, I'll just briefly go through the list there so you can get an idea of what we're doing. And the lease we just talked about. We're also doing one of the 10 roof sections that we have scheduled in the high school. We're doing one of those sections this time around. We're purchasing a truck and a trailer for use in all 3 districts, but it will be, housed at the co-op and purchased through the co-op, but we will, divide the costs through the 3 districts. The IT storage unit, we have a pod right now, so we want to get a permanent storage unit for them to store all of the equipment that we put on the truck each year. Sometimes we have massive amounts and sometimes it's smaller, but there's no real place to store that until the end of the year. We're also getting another storage type of unit. These might be sheds, these might be like pods, that hasn't been determined yet, to store our tables and chairs. Right now, they're sort of all over the high school, and we need a spot to put them. We have rekeying interior and exterior doors. We have a lot of paving projects in both the high school and the middle school. At the high school, we're planning to pave the section from the newest paving project to 122. That section right there will be paved. We're looking at paving really creating a turf field parking lot and paving that as well. We've got some HVAC upgrades that don't have anything to do with the units that we're replacing. And we also have plans to replace some interior and exterior doors. The Family and Consumer Sciences kitchen needs new countertops. And we have an AC unit going into the computer science room. We have window blinds, screens, and seals. That project is continuing, ongoing, and I think we're getting close to the end of it. And we also have boiler jacket replacements. And switching to the middle school, we also have HVAC upgrades there. That's a more substantial figure of $60,000. We have window replacements in one of the teacher rooms. We also plan to replace the interior lighting. I believe this is in the MPR and possibly the gym. I forget if it's both or just one. And we also have exterior lighting at the middle school. And then in the computer science classroom, we plan to completely renovate that with demolition of what's currently there, adding new flooring. It will have a air source heat pump for cooling to keep the devices cool. And that comes with an electrical component as well, and then they'll be getting new tables. We have diesel pump maintenance that we need to start scheduling every year. We have another round of MPR tables. I believe that is also getting close to the end of, I think there might be one more round after this. And the driveway paving that, as you enter the middle school, that very potholy piece of pavement is going to be paved. And flooring in room 220, which is right next door to us. And then, not exactly at the base of the library, but the ramp that goes up just past the library will be replaced as well. And that does it for the co-op.
And these
Question?
are summer projects?
Yes. Some of them probably will blend into next summer, but we're going to attempt, do our very best to get all of these things done.
Is that renovation, the room you're going to renovate, is that the one that they put the money into for the robotics team? And
No.
that's not the same room?
No, it's
Okay.
not the same room. This is typically the computer ed room,
Just
but,
computer.
computer ed has changed over the years, and it's not very functional for the teacher that is currently in there.
And so speaking of robotics, does the high school team still work out of this building?
Yes,
They certainly
So
do.
that's been several years, right?
and they're going
Yeah.
to Worlds.
Yes,
Wow,
they are.
amazing. That's great.
Magic about this location.
Don't change anything.
Yeah, really.
Okay, we'll get to
I
that.
think
You can share
Tennessee
that.
or
Where's-
something. It's far away. Tennessee, North Carolina, something like that. I forget, I'm sorry. And they
No,
can't
no.
send the whole team because they got into Worlds very late. So
Ah.
they're sending a small group,
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
seniors, I think.
Okay. Any other?
That should be a fun trip.
I hope so. I think it might actually be happening. I don't know when it is, actually.
It's probably,
It's probably next week.
yeah, I was just thinking, it must be.
It was
right?
on our agenda.
I don't remember the last time they went. It's been a while. Well, with COVID and everything, they probably didn't hold it,
Yes.
so.
Very exciting.
Well, great, and as always, if there are any other questions or things that come up, please, send them on to me, and I can consolidate anything that we want to bring to Kelly's attention.
Can I just piggyback on to?
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a bit of a conversation at the school board meeting about the parking lot project, because there have been concerns about safety, and believe it or not, as school board members, we hear a lot about parking from our parents and students. And so that will be a follow-up conversation is going to happen at the school board meeting in May. That'll be on our agenda to talk about sort of what the parking plan is. Because we were heavily involved years ago when that particular lot was closed.
Right.
And so
Right.
to reopen it, we want to hash out some of the questions that we had back then. So,
Right.
although it is well within the purview of the superintendent to manage the facility, we had some things we wanted to kind of learn about more.
So was that upper teacher lot, that one is in the list for paving?
Well, it's already paid.
They paved
It
that.
is?
Yeah,
We paved
we
the.
did that last summer.
Where have I been?
I call that the
I guess-
lacrosse field lot, but
Yeah,
yes, that's
I guess I
that's
haven't been up
paved.
there very
Right,
recently
we
during,
paved-
in daylight.
We paved all the way around the back of the high school and that spot.
Okay. All right, great.
So, but I didn't hear about the turf field parking lot. I know that was on the list, so I feel like there's going to be some more conversation about parking. So if you're really interested in hearing about parking, tune in.
Because probably that big rear lot was that, it looks like the numbers, it needed to be like relined and, you know.
You mean the main
The
lot?
main.
Yeah, I believe
student lot.
we're gonna do a lot of relining as well as
Yeah.
part of the paving project.
We encourage students to drive in the last 2 years, and we are significantly, we have to turn a lot of students, juniors, away from
Really?
being able to get parking permits. And our enrollment should be okay next year for it, but it's a headache for everyone, I think,
Mm-hmm.
including board members who like run into people at Hannaford's.
Right, right.
So.
I know, I think before I'm trying to think, I know there was an issue at one point with the parking on Love Lane that the police department had a whole issue with and things like that, and so I don't know if that continues to be.
We just don't have quite enough spots. It's not
Right.
like we need 100, but we
But
don't have quite enough
just-
spots. And the process leaves out the kids who are later birthdays. And so
Yeah.
it feels very unfair to kids, and we hear a lot about it. So I think the administration's trying to rectify it, but that lot with the crossing and everything was concerned.
Yep,
And it wasn't surveilled, so it might need some surveillance too because of where it is. So-
right.
And that might
Great,
be
no, it's a
something.
good idea to bring it up again. It just
So we're gonna
becomes.
kind of hash it out.
Yeah, it just becomes one of those things where, you know, you talked about it, put it aside, but it does need to kind of come up as the needs change
Right.
and.
And the nice thing is, we're just talking about prepping it right now, so
Right.
that gives you guys plenty of time
Right.
to talk about it.
And I believe that the superintendent's gonna have the chief of police over there. They're gonna do a new safety look, a look at
Great.
it and see if there's anything else that can be done.
By
So,
surveillance, you mean like adding
Video
camera
surveillance, yes.
systems and so on and
so the
so
whole
forth?
back parking lot is
Yeah.
video surveilled, I think the whole front, and I think even down, I think the one by the baseball field is now too. You know, that's an area that the school can't see from, so it might need that. And that's me saying it, I'm saying
No,
it,
and
they're
that's
not saying
actually
it.
part of the conversation. We are getting quotes for that
Right,
as we speak.
Right, so,
So everyone can tune in can either attend or tune in to the May board meeting. We'll send the link.
parking.
And you can, because parking's gonna be on the agenda, so that's great. When you had mentioned the IT storage, in the
Yes.
list, and it just made me think, what is the process at the end of the year with all of the district Chromebooks? They're all collected.
They are.
Maintained, updates are made,
Yes.
and then reassigned as we go into
Chromebooks
the
and
year.
staff laptops.
And staff laptops.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Every device should come back to the IT department
Mm-hmm.
for updates and cleaning and whatever else needs to happen. yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
If you want to continue, if there are any other board updates at this
So,
time.
no, I
as a
was just
result of your
gonna-
meeting.
We didn't really, our focus in the May meeting, the April meeting is always on teacher nominations, which are done in non-public, but then we approve them in public. So it's really about where we are with our staff. And then we have multiple conversations in the next couple of months. You'll hear us talk about things like class sizes. I'm just planning for the new year. And that's kind of the focus of the school board in this time. It's not as much on, we get updates and budget updates, but planning for the summer projects and really talking about student concerns and issues. So that's where
Well,
we are.
summer programming for the middle and high school, I'm not sure.
It's done mostly by student services.
Yep.
That's our extended school year programming. That would be a good question for Lauren, and I think it's interesting if she can come and do an overview. A few years ago, Amy did one for us to go, we went in and sat with her and we took, she had little sessions, and it's really interesting what our student services department does. People think it's just special ed, but it's everything. It's attendance, it's homeless students, it's all those kinds of needs, and our ESY programming, which is federally mandated and run by us. So.
Right, and like nursing, like the school nurses, so all of the kind of COVID protocols and things like that came through that department as well,
Yeah,
and the management
absolutely.
of that,
Yep.
so, yeah, there's definitely more than most people think is involved, so.
So, and we had to postpone our facilities update and a bunch of work this past meeting because we had some significant non-public conversation.
Well, our April meeting is usually kind of a shorter one as we kind of gear up. We kind of close down one, gear up for the next, and we look for the end of the school year. So if there are no other questions, issues, concerns? I should have mentioned during the reorg, and should have kind of restated that our committee policy or, practice has been to meet the fourth Thursday of the month. I'm going to assume we're going to continue with that. We do try to keep the meetings to 2 hours or less here at the library, the middle school library. So we'll continue in that vein. And our next meeting would be the May 26th. And I'll look to our process observer for any feedback on this evening's meeting. I usually forget to do that.
We, from a content perspective, I thought we discussed a lot of good topics. It was very informative, so it gets an A+. From a timing perspective, it was within the 2 hours, including the wait time, so that was good too. So I think we did a great job. You did a great job,
As always. So,
as always.
okay, and at that,
Do we have a new schedule for process observers?
it's attached to the second page of the agenda.
Oh, I
It's
didn't
like a
notice that. Okay, I'll
rotating
look for it.
schedule.
Thank you.
So, yeah, we just kind of gets updated. We have to kind of switch people around due to absentees, and I kind of just kind of keep maintaining it, but it's at the bottom there. So at this point, at 7:41, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn
Make
from
a motion to
Raul,
adjourn.
seconded by
I can get behind that.
Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Love the unanimous vote.
Seriously, I
Great.
used to be on the budget committee, man. This is like where it's at.
Thank you all. We'll see you in May.
Thank you very much.